Today I want to try to get across to you how deadly serious I am when I say you need to get rid of your smartphones. I want to show you, I want to try to pack into one video all of the things that I have learned about where the global controllers, the technocrats, the world communists, where they want to take us. And I want to show you what is really happening now. I want to show you how they're going to sell it to you. I want to show you what experts have said. It's truly a nightmare world. And I know this is going to be a scary video, and I don't care if people accuse me of fear-mongering. You're going to see by the end of this that this is exactly what they are building. They are grooming us. That's something else I'll show you. Since I did my last video, which barely touched on the why, I've gotten a lot of great responses. And the negative ones are great too, because they let me really think it through. They let me see where the points of resistance are for people to this idea. And the positive ones were great. I've already had multiple people, I'd say at least 10 people, get in touch with me and say that they went out and did it. They've gotten rid of their phones and they have flip phones now. I myself put my money where my mouth is. That night, the night I made that video, I went out and bought a Nokia 3310, which is a dumb phone. It does have data capability, but it just so happens where I live, I can't get any of the data. So for me, it is a true dumb phone. Here's the little phone here that I got, but there's more than that to choose from. You know what I love? I love that it isn't a little thin wafer. I love that it's not glowing in my face. I love that there's actual buttons. I like the ringer because it doesn't just play an endless song. I think it's a really great idea to get rid of your smartphone, but I got a ton of pushback. Come on, Polly. With all due respect, what you're saying is total nonsense. Do you actually believe that even a tiny portion of humanity will give up their smartphones for the sake of battling the evil elite? Yeah, that's real practical, idiot. You and 50 people do it and no Fs will be given. Way to make them suffer. I got a lot of that. Like nobody's going to do it, just give up now. It's too convenient and wonderful. Yeah? Well, I'm hoping that this video can show you that you are trading convenience for slavery. You really are. You are being groomed. This is the grooming stage. Here's Katie Morton to just quickly whip through the 7 stages of grooming, just the names of the 7 stages. And as we go through, see if you don't recognize what's happening.
The first stage of grooming is identifying the victim. And the second stage is gaining trust and access. The third stage is becoming important to the child or adult and giving them something that they need. The fourth stage is they will begin isolating you. The fifth stage is they'll begin creating secrecy around the relationship. They'll threaten harm or revealing secrets as a way to keep you tied to the relationship. The sixth stage is sexualizing the relationship. And just like we talked about before when it comes to gaining trust, this won't always be done in an overt way at the beginning. And the seventh and final stage of grooming is controlling the relationship. Because once the sexual abuse is happening, all of the things that they've set up, they'll use that as leverage to keep us held in that relationship, whether it's financial. Remember I said they might buy us gifts or give us things we couldn't otherwise get for ourselves. It could be that they have more power over us because they're a boss or a teacher or someone in our life who can, harm us in such a way. All of these different stages are stages of manipulation.
Right. They'll give you gifts. They tell you it's great. They give you the sales pitch. They make themselves indispensable to you. And that's when they start to invade. And that's when you start to realize you're trapped. And by then, you start to be filled with shame and there's nothing you can do. So a lot of people start to pretend that they like it. They start to pretend that they're okay with it. They start to make excuses for it.
That's what gets me, is that you're in China. The government can know everything about you.
The government already know everything about me. If I'm not committing a crime, they don't give a shit.
Because the only thing they have left at that point is the little bit of the advantage that they were roped in with in the first place.
We can buy the meal before we go
But why are we paying for the meal before we even go to the restaurant?
because it's a little bit cheaper than paying there. It's maybe we pay in advance. Maybe we save like $3 or $4.
Do you ever wonder how it could possibly be that young women ever get stuck with a pimp in this day and age when there's so much information out there about it and how this all operates and how bad and damaging it is? Do you wonder how this still works after all this time? Do you really think all of those women are just absolutely stupid? What it is there is a tried and true formula for weaseling in to a person's life. This is what predators do. And a lot of times it starts with getting people addicted to something, whether it's your attention, whether it's an actual drug. And in the case of the smartphone, you really are addicted.
We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine.
Did you ever think smartphones would get to this point?
No, I definitely would never have thought that I would need my phone so much. And need is the key word, not just want.
I don't drink coffee, but I do have an addiction, and here it is. Now, what is it you do here at Dopamine Labs?
Yeah, so we use AI and neuroscience to help apps become more engaging and persuasive.
In other words, more addictive.
It's not an accident, it's a conscious design decision.
And there's a whole lab at Stanford that teaches students how to apply persuasive psychology principles into technology to persuade people to use products in a certain way. So it's not about giving you all this freedom, it's about sucking you in to take your time.
I think we all knew in the back of our minds, even though we feigned this whole line of like, there probably aren't any really bad unintended consequences. I think in the back, deep recesses of our minds, we kind of knew something bad could happen. But I think the way we defined it was not like this. It literally is a point now where I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works.
Look at this article here. Feedback loop from apps like Facebook are contributing to the decay of society in general. The younger you are, the more you crave the reward, and the more depressed you get when it doesn't arrive. It's a dependency. So that's stage 1 of grooming. And I hear that reflected back at me with comments like these. And like this. The smartphone is a tool, nothing more. Responsibility for its proper usage lies with the user. No, that's not true. We can be forced into using it in ways that we don't want to. And that's why I say ditch it now. If they don't get enough numbers on that market penetration of smartphones and people with mobile data, they can't bring in this plan. But once they reach a certain critical mass, all the people who are addicted to the apps and have chosen to go down that road of slavery, they're going to pull everyone else in too. We won't be able to avoid it. And here's why. Take a look at this clip from a Bloomberg video, a little documentary they did over in China.
There are dystopian innovations that seem to touch every facet of life here. I ran into one example of this while attempting to rehydrate.
No? Can I use this? No? Doesn't work?
And it has to do with these things. QR codes. You know the drill. You scan the code and something pops up on your phone, like a promotion or discount. America laughed these things off years ago, but here, they run the entire economy. Cash and credit cards are history. Instead, you scan QR codes to pay for everything. Restaurants, groceries, even buskers.
You just can't opt out. You can't opt out. And then once you're in the system, once you're being tracked, it's all bets are off. You're in. It's like Eve with the apple. It's like the vampire knocking on your door. You have to let it in, but once you let it in even a little bit, you can't get rid of it. listen to this. These guys, and this is from the same Bloomberg mini documentary. These guys are Westerners, and they went to China to work in the tech industry there. So they should know what's happening, right? Well, just listen to this.
Living in a very tightly regulated communist country, does that bother you, or you don't care?
Like the presumption, at least that I got before I came from Australia, you're sort of like moving into sort of like a militarized state kind of thing. Like things are gonna be really intense. But like you take a beer, you just like walk down the road, hang out in the park, fine.
Yeah.
Do that back in my hometown, Australia, like straight to the cop house.
Yeah.
Like,
but then play spike ball on the grass, and then all of a sudden the cops come and stop you.
You jaywalked and you had facial recognition.
The craziest thing, I actually got this. Yeah, so I was jaywalking in Nanshan, and all of a sudden I got a fine to my WeChat.
Was it instant?
It was about 20 seconds after, I guess. And I had money in my balance, it just went straight out. And this is just the most incredible thing. It just came straight out.
Didn't even authorize it.
And that was incredible.
That's crazy.
I was then very, very worried that they have your face in the facial recognition.
They have everyone's though. I mean, when you get across the border, they take that picture. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's all in the system. They know where you are.
That's scary.
See how shocked they were when that guy said that he jaywalked, and instantly they took the money out of his bank account for the fine for jaywalking. You see how shocked they were. They didn't think they thought they could just go in the door a little bit. They thought they could just have a taste. But no, you're in or you're out. And once you're in, you're stuck in. And you know what else? You're going to have to pretend to like it, because pretending to like it is part of the game. This is a complete invasion of who you are. Look at this scene from the documentary that Vice made when they went over to China. Listen to what happens to this man.
Zhang Yingjie co-signed a loan for a friend who later skipped out. He paid his share, but the local court didn't care.
我前2天去淄博，赶上暑假没有票了，我就得买这个头等舱。结果是说你信用度不够，不能买头等舱。我回来没办法，不能还是没有座位，回来坐这个大巴。高铁不是3个小时4个小时就到了，大巴车得10个多小时。
4 million people have been blocked from buying high-speed train tickets over low social credit, and more than 11 million from buying flights. To raise his score, Zhang gets in line at a local community office to donate money the government says will go to charity.
捐100个居多哦。
手写字吗？
我现在已经通过训写，通过捐款啊，通过做义工来给自己加分。
The system might have caused him to suffer, but Zhang is unwavering in his support for the government's push to score him.
这是通过这种制度来约束很多不自觉的人。
You're gonna have to smile while they do this to you.
You know, when China is looking at this problem, combined with these new payment experiences networks, identity now has just become as simple as facial recognition with a smile. You actually don't have to smile, but it helps for the experience and psychology side of this.
自觉的人。
Now, in lots of articles on this, you'll read that it's not a private matter. They publish this stuff in parks and on billboards. They publish those people who have lost points in this system. You see, here's a fine point to remember. They'll start you off with 1,000 points. Everybody gets started off with 1,000 points. And anything that happens will demerit you. Okay? And they're rolling this out in thousands of precincts, or whatever they call them, down over in China. So that each one is testing out just a little bit different measures, and then they're going to aggregate all this data and find the best, most efficient method of control for these people. And as you can see from what happened there, the guy had to go make donations to charity to try to get his score back up. You talk about a giant bribery scheme. Nobody knows where that money goes. And look at this little snippet from an article from The Nation. They're talking about one of these areas where they're experimenting with the social credit. So they're talking about everybody starting off with this 1,000 points, and they say how you get points. Pruning a neighbor's tree earns 1 point, as does taking an older person to hospital. Getting a car out of a ditch is worth 1 point. Helping to read a water meter or lending tools is half a point, and it goes on and on. Commodifying normal human interaction down to helping someone read a water meter or lending them a tool.
By 2020, China plans to track, rate, reward, and punish all of its citizens, essentially turning every personal experience into a transaction.
There's more in that article. Liu Jian Yi, 64, a former farmer, said, "Previously the village paid for cleaners, but they didn't work well. Now we do the cleaning ourselves. It gives us points and saves money. He used to travel the country working construction, blah, blah, blah. I've just mended a neighbor's chimney. If I report that to our party leader, and if my friend confirms it with a photograph, I should get another point. We get our scores at the end of each month on a WeChat page, but I don't own a smartphone," he says. And then he talks about special people asking for projects to be done. And these people got approved even though they had no experience. He says none of them had any qualifications, but it got through anyways thanks to a few bribes. And he's supposed to give us points? Makes you wonder, said the man. It's not as fair as it sounds. It's not as neutral as it sounds. There's still bribery happening in these Chinese villages, even with this social credit system. Will there be need for courts anymore, and judges and juries? Will it just instantly decide what you've done wrong? Will we ever get to plead our case and show extenuating circumstances? Are we ever innocent until proven guilty anymore in this land?
And the mechanism we have right now, the best mechanism we think we're going to have for that over the next 20, 30 years will be blockchain-based systems combined with artificial intelligence. We need to code laws and regulations into computer code because it's no longer a process that a human is involved in. It's now relegated to a machine.
I hope you're getting an idea of how dystopian it is. I can already feel what you're saying. The guy admitted, but I don't have a smartphone. Yeah, right. He's still suckered into this system, even though he himself does not have the phone or the data. So all of you out there congratulating yourself, I don't have one. It's not good enough to just stay quietly and try to hide in the corner and hope they don't notice you. You're not going to escape. We have to actively discourage smartphones and apps. I'm sorry, but this is the grooming phase. I want to take you now to a guy called Brett King. Brett King, this is a YouTube video, which I'll show you pieces of in a minute. He is a futurist and best-selling author of books like The Augmented and Bank 4.0. He founded the fintech Moven, the world's first mobile downloadable bank account. He also advised the Obama administration on fintech policy. Right. A downloadable bank account. How do you figure? What does that even mean? You see, he's out there selling this in a way that might appeal to Westerners, but it's really a tough sell. I waded through his lecture, an hour-long lecture to fellow bankers. Well, he's not a banker, but he was talking to a group of bankers, a great big room full of bankers. And basically, about 40 minutes into the presentation, starts dawning on me and dawning on the audience that what he's really saying to them is, you don't have a job anymore. I'm sorry, it's over. This industry is over. There's no bank anymore. It's fintech now, and it's totally different from normal banking. This does not have money. No money, just pretend, just credits. And there's no financial advisors anymore. He tells them basically at the end of this, by the way, learn to code. I kid you not. That's what he says. Your only choice, your only hope of surviving in the new economy is by learning to build the AIs that are going to run the world. Listen to just a little bit of his speech here, and it's worth listening to the whole thing, but he is a slimy snake. And the hour is filled with visual images of rockets and, you know, the old Model T Fords to get you feeling nostalgic about this robot raping that we're all about to undertake. Listen to him talk about the new banking model.
You have to understand that technology is going to change the nature of banking itself. And that would have to start with the basic bank account or a value store. So when it comes to what we're seeing in terms of investment today, what's happening is you're not getting people just look at digital onboarding. You're seeing from the perspective of investment and savings, looking at behavioral mechanisms behind savings and investing. So this is the change. It's a behavioral framework around the value store, not a product framework. So when you look at how this might evolve, a great illustration of this is happening in China right now with ICBC, with their AI investment platform. Now, what they do is they monitor your behavior in terms of your portfolio to produce a very detailed risk model. They've eliminated the risk profile questionnaire as part of the investment process. Now, from a perspective of a regulator, you might say, well, this is a problem because we need that risk profile questionnaire to understand your risk profile and then understand that you've committed to that risk contained in that investment product. But that's iterative thinking. First principles design thinking is, well, let's monitor your behavior and learn how risky you are. And if that risk is a problem for you, let's change your behavior over time by educating you, by giving you the right behavioral triggers. We can tell you the best day of the week to prompt people to save. We can tell you the exact time of day when is the best time to message someone to save money. Behaviorally, we created a behavioral savings process, not a savings account.
Behavioral, not products. What he's said there to them is that normally banking is about savings accounts, investments, and credit. No more. Those are banking products. We don't care about those anymore. What we care about now is behavior. He said it multiple times in there. He said it clear as day. I mean, he just told you that they know all about you. And they're going to teach you. They're going to educate you. That's what banking is now. I mean, what does that remind you of?
这是通过这种制度来约束很多不自觉的人。
Why is this related to smartphones at all? You're saying probably, and I'm probably doing a terrible job of explaining how. Unless you hark back to the grooming thing. On the smartphone, everything is infantilized. It's all gamified. You get points, you have ding-dong sounds and music, and you make little avatars, and you can dress your avatars up, and you can put filters on yourself, so you have like cat whiskers and dumb things like that. It's all dumb. It's all just a waste of your life. It's fake. As Max Kaiser calls it, it's the casino gulag. And they're building it by slowly convincing you that this online world is better than this real world. And that the less you use the real world, the more you're helping the real world survive. And they're disconnecting you from the realness of cash and understanding that the transactions are real. You can't hoard. You can hoard cash. You can save it. You can hide it. You can do black market transactions. You could pay a babysitter. But in this world, Bank 4.0, social credit world, you can't hide any of that. You can't even save because at a moment's notice, they can take it away from you for walking across the street when they don't want you to, or for not lending your neighbor a tool. You see how it is? And so eventually, You live in a world that's completely sterile. There's nothing to do. The only things you can buy are things for your stupid cartoon doppel. Because, hey, it's better for the environment. We don't actually produce things, we produce fake things. And you've gotten slowly used to it by looking at a screen all day, by having all of your interactions this way. And then after a while, isn't it just annoying to carry this thing around? Listen, Bank 4.0 guy talks about how this is just temporary.
In the future, you're just going to identify the person based on a set of data. You know, what they do, what they look like, their defining biometrics. These are elements you will confirm the identity with. Banks may be one of the trusted parties that seed identity algorithms into, you know, whatever databases, whether it's a public database or a commercial private database that's created for identity. But identity is going to be this collection of data about you that makes you uniquely you. And this is how we'll combine it, combat identity theft. So when we look at the next 20, 30 years and the building blocks of financial services, what is clear is that there's some big changes taking place. When China is looking at this problem, combined with these new payment experiences networks, identity now has just become as simple as facial recognition with a smile. You actually don't have to smile, but it helps for the experience and psychology side of this.
We are not far away from that.
Your phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. Most people don't realize they are already a cyborg. That phone is an extension of yourself. It's just that the data rate, the rate at which of the communication rate between you and the cybernetic extension of yourself that is your phone and computer is slow. It's very slow. And that is like a tiny straw of information flow between your biological self and your digital self. And we need to make that tiny straw like a giant river.
And it all comes down to the smartphone. It really all comes down to the smartphone. The proliferation of smartphones is central to the rise of mobile banking. What will the bank of the future look like? The rise of fintech came about over the last 5 years primarily as the result of 5 key developments, one of which, the rise of the mobile internet. The smartphone, we have supercomputers in our pockets and are always connected. Some of you, think you're very smart because you've never fallen for this smartphone thing. And honestly, good for you. That is smart. But it's not enough to just opt out. You have to try and spread this message to people. And just look what happened to the Bloomberg guy when he went over to Shenzhen. He couldn't even buy a bottle of water. I don't know. I've been trying to put this together, and I've been going back and forth on whether or not to make it really tight or to try to talk to you like a human being, just human to human, and intersperse my conversation with you with things that I've seen and things that I've read, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm going to keep making videos like this. I'm going to try to come at it from a whole bunch of different angles until you really get it. Until I hit on the way of saying it that makes you understand that this whole smartphone convenient, but I can just look on a map on my phone and find out where I'm going. But I can see pictures of my kids instantly. But I can order this today and have it here tomorrow. This is grooming. None of those things, none of that will even exist or be useful in your life if this comes to be. All of those toys will be taken away. And all that will remain is the tracking. All that will remain is you'll be funneled into whatever direction they want you to go. Internet at home on your laptop is not the same as these things. Not the same at all as these things. Internet isn't bad. Cell phones aren't bad. Convenience is great. But realize that the people trying to keep you hooked into that system are just like drug dealers. They're just like pimps. They're just like child molesters. They are grooming you. They are grooming you. And as soon as we are hooked, as soon as we cannot turn it off, As soon as all of our real money becomes virtual, merits, as soon as they hand us our 1,000 points for being good citizens, we're done. There is no going back. There is no going back. Okay, everybody, I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you liked it. Well, I hope you hated it. But leave a thumbs up anyway, and leave me a comment. And my paypal.me information is in the description box if you would like to make a contribution to my work. I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much to everybody who has donated, to everybody who's commented, thumbs up, shared, etc. I will talk to you soon. Until next time, peace out.